Alright, this is going to be my last live video before we get going tomorrow. And I just want to bring some attention to a couple things, make sure everyone understands what the plan is for tomorrow. Okay. I'll pull up this map real quick so you guys can take a look here. Okay. Alright, as you see here, this is where the rally is going to be, Terry Shrunk Plaza. Okay. And this map is on my page. Okay. Down here is where the checkpoint will be. There will be gates in there where the police will be checking you to make sure you have no weapons. Okay. We will also be there and we'll kind of be making sure they don't let any crazy people in there. Right here is Chapman Square. This is where Antifa is going to be, or the violent protesters, the Portland citizens who choose to use violence. These people will be right here at Chapman Square. Now, they will have people kind of running around as scouts, trying to cause trouble and everything. But we'll have people. We'll also have people on the streets. We'll also have people legally carrying firearms, just to make sure that people are extra safe. Because the biggest thing about these people is they try to find victims. They try to find people who are by themselves. They try to find easy targets is what they do. So we're going to have a lot of people out there to kind of make sure that you're safe. Now, this is Fred Meyer's, okay, on Highway 14 on Columbia Way. Okay, the bus will be picking people up right here. Okay, and if you kind of zoom in a little bit, you can kind of see it right there. Okay, and so there's going to be a public sidewalk. There will be people open carrying. There will be lots of security. It's going to be a very safe spot, and the Vancouver police are very aware of what's going on. If you see, there's a huge parking lot over here. Tons of room to park. Cannot guarantee what's going to happen in your car. I feel pretty safe. As long as you're not carrying a bunch of flags or your car doesn't have a bunch of Trump stickers. But we also kind of have a plan for people who are roaming the parking lot also, in terms of who are criminals. But there's also a lot of different places you can park in the area within a mile, and you can Uber in or you can get dropped off. Okay? Guys, the Patriot Prayer and the Proud Boys stuff, and you know, just seeing a lot of other family members who feel the exact same way as you and are willing to go into one of the craziest towns in the country, one of the most hateful, darkest towns in the country. It's good for us to go in there and bring some light. I mean, it's beyond comfort. It's hard for me to explain, but it's very, very weird to just be, to bring in something that's like good into a city that's so bad. It's so bad in Portland.
Portland police used flashbangs to break up a fight between members of Patriot Prayer and opposing protesters. The Patriot Prayer members were waiting to board a bus to return home. This day started with Patriot Prayer gathering at Terry Shrunk Plaza. The Federal Protective Service put up barricades and checked people as they entered the park. Across the street, a rally in opposition put on by Portland Labor Against Fascists. They were joined by members of Antifa. The two sides yelled at each other, separated by barricades and law enforcement.
Let's roll in.
Among those with Patriot Prayer, the man known as Tiny, who left Portland just a couple of weeks ago. He has come back.
I made a promise to my family, my Patriot family, that I will come back and take a stand with them. I will not let them stand alone. And if I have to die next to my family, to my brothers and my sister that's standing up for freedom in America, I will have to.
Some people blocked the road in front of the Patriot Prayer rally. Federal protective officers told them to move on. When they didn't, they made an arrest. Finally, officers moved the barricades at Shrunk Plaza, and the rally went on the move. Violent confrontations began. Portland police revoked the rally permit.
This event has been determined to be a riot.
And declared it a riot.
I'm not trying to have a problem with you.
The march permit has been revoked.
They told everyone they needed to leave the area. It took time, but finally the crowd dispersed.
Everything was self-defense.
Both sides claiming they got their point across.
You're uninformed! Get a book!
Now, police use a lot of things to try to control the crowd. One of them, these rubber bullets that we found on the road after some of the confrontations. They also use some pepper spray and then some devices that have pepper spray inside them to try to control everyone. One Portland police officer was taken to the hospital with minor injuries. 4 other people had to go to the hospital as well. We're told that there were 4 arrests, and that includes Tiny. He was arrested on a warrant for something that happened earlier in the month of June.
There's nothing cool about being a Nazi!
Hey guys, in this video we are going to be taking a close look at the riot organized by Patriot Prayer this last weekend in Portland. We at Punks for Progress have been following the activities of Patriot Prayer since their inception, essentially. And I have had some fairly extensive conversations with Joey Gibson, the founder of Patriot Prayer, in private message, and I feel like I have a fairly good grasp on what his sort of entire ministry is and what his worldview is. And it's essentially nothing except ultimately the instigation to violence. Whether he knows that or not is sort of irrelevant, because the things he says and the ideas he espouses do manifest in violence, as we'll see in this video. But in the second part of the video, I'm going to dissect the speech that Joey gave prior to what they're calling a march, but what really was just they walked about a block and a half and then beat the shit out of a bunch of people and got shut down by the Portland Police Bureau. But like I said, in that second half of this video, I'm really going to dissect that speech that he gave before the march, because I think it really encapsulates what nonsense he actually believes, and the fact that he believes in such nonsense and then so adamantly espouses it on the street really gives a lot of his followers license to commit violence. And so we're going to take a close look at that. But before we do, check out this new video from Bad Religion.
Jack boots cracking on a polished floor. Redheads gathered at the liquor store. Pure hearts race on a crystal night. Everybody grab a torch to light. Everybody needs somebody. Join the party. The kids are armed right today. Now grab your partner, do-si-do. Populism is a sold-out show. Humanity is a nowhere scene. Everybody has an AR-15. Everybody needs somebody. Join the party. The kids are armed right today. We love God. We love our women. We love tradition,
Okay, before we really dive into the events that transpired yesterday, June 30th, 2018, I think it's important to get a little perspective on context. Patriot Prayer held a rally a couple weeks ago in Portland where they got run the fuck out of town real quick. And Joey really kind of fucking lost his mind as a result of that. And they literally got chased out by a huge mob of some righteous people from Portland. And in the interim between that, which I'm going to show you the video of them getting run out here in just a second, but in the interim between that and what transpired yesterday, Joey posted one of the most really sort of demented, kind of scary screeds. It's really super reminiscent of kind of a Unabomber-esque manifesto, minus literally all the intelligence of Ted Kaczynski. But it really was alarming and disturbing, and so that's why we at Pigs for Progress were watching so closely what went down in Portland. And not to mention we have some very good fucking friends and righteous comrades in Portland that we were concerned for the safety of. So we were watching closely. And so I'm going to show you this video. This is them getting run out of town a couple weeks ago, and then we'll get into what happened yesterday.
Patriot Prayer, yeah, that's right.
Alright, here's the situation. Everyone left. We got a couple of us left.
Up on the bridge?
No, down. We're being followed right now by a pretty decent sized group right now.
They all need to be arrested. That's the fucking truth. All of them.
There's only about 10 of us right now, and there's about 50 of them following us around the city, trying to figure out how to get out of this situation.
I gotta just step up and say, God damn it, here. We'll fucking pay for the tree.
Being followed by about 50 guys right now. We're just trying to get out of Portland right now.
Whoa,
They're throwing stuff at us.
You see that? You see that? What's up?
Dude, they're throwing rocks at us. They're throwing rocks at us. Show them. Hey, let me see on the camera. Let me see what they're throwing. Look at that. They're throwing the rocks.
Watch out!
Watch
Get
out!
back! Watch your heads!
Throwing stuff at us. We're all alone right now. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Watch your head!
They're throwing like hardcore bricks, sharp bricks at us. We're all alone. No, they can come around. They can come around.
They're throwing rocks. You see this?
Here, we're gonna go into this public area. Hopefully they'll help us get out of this situation. Here, we're gonna go into this public area. Hopefully they'll help us get out of this situation. Stay close, boys. Come on. Watch out. He got hit. He got hit in the head with one of the rocks.
You need water. Everybody got water? He's about to pass out. What's funny is fucking take that shit. Hey, watch your kids. They're throwing rocks.
Get your kids out of here.
Kids, they're throwing rocks.
Get your kids out of here.
Watch your kids. They're throwing rocks.
Yep.
Water right there.
Hey, we need help. We need help.
Hey, stay up, knock him down. Knock him down.
Just walk right towards where the people are.
No, yeah, we're walking into the group, guys.
Yeah, we'll walk.
Hey, right here. It's right here.
Stay high. Stay high, Joey.
We're going right here.
Stay high.
God damn it.
Boy, look at that.
Now
Forget
you want
that.
to keep fucking talking? Now you fucking see that. Get it,
Okay, so Joey comes away from that resounding, humiliating defeat, and he's distraught. His world is crashing down around him. This movement that he has built up for the last year is in a shambles. And every community that he's gone into over the last year has adamantly opposed him, whether it was the San Francisco Bay Area last summer that came out in the thousands and shut him down, to just this, 2 weeks ago, to him getting chased out once again from Portland. And he posts that incredibly disturbing tirade that I showed you earlier in the video, and then rallies all the sort of desperate alt-right warriors from around the nation for one last ditch effort. And he chooses, of all dates, June 30th, which is the date that Families Belong Together has sent out the national call for marches all across the nation that people answered in massive numbers all throughout the nation. So at the same time that Portland is doing their thing, people are marching all over the country in the hundreds of thousands in support of all the families that are being destroyed by the fascist Trump, Pence regime's immigration policies. Something that Patriot Prayer sees no reason to be concerned for. But anyway, they choose this date to come out and promote their fascist rally. And so that day I was in Reno, and I went out and I supported the Reno version, or the Reno faction of the Families Belong Together March, which was a 1,200 strong showing in Reno early in the morning. And I came home and started watching the live streams coming out of Portland, and saw the violence go down that was without question initiated by the alt-right, and we're going to really get into that here. But I just want to reiterate a little bit of the importance of just what a disturbing and sort of disruptive presence Patriot Prayer is on our communities. So while the nation and the liberals or the left were united in national solidarity in marches, peaceful, nonviolent marches all over the nation, there's one march that went down that had violence, and it was the Patriot Prayer March. And they brought in people from all over the nation, and which amounted to about 200 people. I mean, this is essentially the last ditch effort of the alt-right, with the exception of the upcoming Unite the Right rally in Washington, D.C., which should be a monumental shit show. But this 200 or some odd people came out for this thing because they're desperate in their losing battle. And so anyway, let's just get into it. And as we do, you'll see there's a still as the video starts. There were so many people that came out, like I said, from all over the nation. There was a lot of people I recognized that I've confronted in the Bay Area, like Amber Cummings, who organized the Say No to Communism in the Bay something nonsense rally. She organized a couple of the significant rallies that happened in Berkeley in the last year that you've seen the millions and millions of videos of. But as we get into this, you'll see the still of Lauren White, or as she likes to call herself now, Lauren Order. But anyway, she's the big giant fucking piece of shit that showed up with her big giant fucking piece of shit friend Rob Cantrell to my friend's bookstore in Berkeley a few months ago, Revolution Books, and threatened to fucking burn it down. So anyway, at the very beginning of this next video, you'll see a still of that piece of shit. But this next clip is about 6 minutes long. And I know that's an incredibly long time to have to endure the sight of pieces of fascist shit like the alt-right. But the reason I'm playing the whole clip is because that 6 minutes is essentially the extent of their march. Before they instilled and initiated violence against their detractors and then had their permit revoked and their action declared a riot by the Portland Police Bureau. So here you go.
Look at that. All of these people that love America. Look at this. It's almost like we're getting ready to go into battle. Look at this.
Anybody know where Joey's at? Jerry! All right, let's go. Stay tight. Boys, and my mother's business.
They're throwing stuff. They're throwing objects. Look like it's fruit. Throwing bottles.
Keep it moving! Forward! Forward! Keep it moving! We got bait. Let's go. Come on, guys. USA all the way. USA.
So they're throwing eggs.
Why don't you do something about them, man?
You are the embarrassment. You are the embarrassment. You're racist. You're racist. You're the embarrassment. You're the embarrassment. You're the embarrassment. You're embarrassment. I stand with them. You stand with evilness.
Instead of yelling, we can have a civil conversation.
Listen, you're the hatred one. Why are you so angry? Why are you so angry? Why are you so angry? Why are you so angry?
The only reason why they're angry, you know why they're angry. Come on, baby. You don't know who we are.
Reason why we need a better education. What? You are no knowledge. You fucking suck. You fucking suck. You aren't Portlanders. You aren't fucking Oregonians. You had to get people shifted. Have enough people here.
Why are you so angry? This is America. I get to belong here. I get to be here. You're the one that's hateful. The insanity of it all. This is the Civil War. This is the Civil War. It's not the North against the South. It's going to happen in each state, state to state. This is crazy. This is the Civil War.
Go!
This is what's coming to America because of the Democrats.
Okay, that's Will Johnson. Now, I'll tell you quite a bit more about him in just a minute. But first I'd like to address some of the things that he was saying and a little bit of what you saw transpire toward the end of that video. So first of all, he's talking about this is a civil war. Now, straight up, this is what all the alt-right believe. They believe that they're in it. This is the civil war of their generation, and they're convinced that bloodshed will be necessary. And you'll see proof of that in the second half of this video when I dissect Joey's speech. But as you'll see also in that video, he sort of walks up and the violence is already sort of kicked off. So not necessarily in defense of Will, but I will say in his credit, he didn't see the first thing that initiated the actual mass violence. But he takes away from it that him and all his idiot fascist comrade friends are somehow victims of Democrat violence. Now I'm going to show you in the next clip that without question the alt-right initiated that massive brawl. It's undeniable, and again, I'm going to show you that in a second. But to walk away from it, convinced that Democrats are the most violent element in society and they're the reason for this imaginary civil war that Will and his friends dream of. Let's remind you that at the same time while this was going on in Portland, in more than 70 cities with hundreds of thousands of people all over the country marching in solidarity with keeping families together, which were predominantly liberals that attended a lot of these marches. And there wasn't violence at any of them, or any indication of some coming violent civil war. Only at Patriot Prayer's rally was it evident that there could be some, that could lead someone to conclude that there might be a civil war coming. And it was all initiated by Patriot Prayer and these violent alt-right thugs that came from all over the country, California. Lauren White is from New York. You got Base Spartan was there, out doing what he calls out trumping. Well, he's from Southern California. You know, they came out all, you know, loaded to the hilt with all their armor and shit and ready to go. And they got what they wanted. So let's take a look at this clip, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you a little more. Okay, so as you can see in that clip, where I put in the freeze frame, which is incredibly blurry, but it draws your attention to the bottom left hand of the screen, where you see directly after that big flashbang goes off, one of the guys from the alt-right side just comes full force running from the back of the crowd, barrels around to the front, and just starts swinging on the first counter demonstrator that he sees, which then essentially gives license to the entire alt-right fascist mob to just go en masse and just start brutalizing everybody in their path, which is their pattern. If you take a look at our video on Punks for Progress about the Proud Boys, it's Proud Boys, violence-obsessed gang of women beaters exposed. It's on our channel, check it out. You'll see two instances of this same type of behavior where the second someone punches somebody or there's some type of direct personal confrontation, all of the alt-right just mob en masse and brutally beat anyone in their path. And that's exactly what we saw happen here. And now listen, there's another point I need to make. I don't want to stress who threw the first punch, because that is the ridiculous thing that we've been arguing since back in April of 2017 is, did Antifa start it or did the alt-right start it? I will assert, in no uncertain terms, that it is always the alt-right that starts it, because that's why they're there. They are there in hopes that this type of thing will happen. And then, of course, they go off and make themselves out to be the victims of Democrat violence. And, you know, this Saturday was no exception. They went out, came from all over the country, and suited up in all their armor. You saw Will saying, it's almost like we're getting ready for battle. Well, that's exactly what they were doing. And the mass of the Portland community said, we don't want you coming here and initiating a battle on our community and calling Portland a horrible place like Joey does. You know, if you don't fucking like it, leave, because the mass of a majority of people in Portland are fucking okay with the way things are in terms of not wanting to change it towards anything that Patriot Prayer or the Proud Boys are offering. Okay? Now, of course, every city has its troubles. It's not any type of freaking utopia by any stretch. There's all kinds of oppression and all kinds of problems going on there like any other city. But absolutely not does violent, God-obsessed fascism offer any type of alternative. Okay, so enough of that. What I'd like to get into now in the second half of the video is Joey's speech that got them all riled up for this. So we're going to really dissect that in the next half of this video. But before we do, we need to chill for a minute and check out some fucking Descendents.
Place. The scum rising from a masturbating race. There's nothing American about us now, and we've forgotten what we're all about. Cause I still believe in our democracy and equal rights for every race and creed. So take it outside, shout as loud as you can. We won't let sexism or bigotry stand. That's who we are. That's how I feel. That's who we are. Can't you feel? Can't you feel? That's who we are. That's how I feel. That's who we are. Can't you feel? Can't you feel it getting real? Can't you feel? For the world, for the tribe, poor, huddled, war, torn. We're not a rock. We're all equal. We're not an island. We have a role to play to make people's lives better every day. That's who we are. That's how I feel. How I feel.
Okay, so in this half of the video, we, like I said, are going to be taking a close look at the speech Joey gave prior to the riot that they initiated. And in doing so, we're going to, I think, get a better understanding of why these people do the things they do, what motivates them to get out in the streets and terrorize innocent communities, and so we'll be taking a look at that. But real quickly, I told you earlier in the video that I would tell you a little more about Will Johnson. So I think it's important because much of what you saw earlier and then what you're going to see throughout the rest of this is all stuff that was from Will Johnson's live stream. He's Unite America First. Xenophobic, America First, rooted in racist history concepts that he's obviously completely unaware of. But so a little background on him. As far as I know, he does live in the Bay Area. That's where I've seen him a number of times. But I got to say, Will is easily one of the most confused people I've ever fucking met in my life. Like, for real. There's a video we have up on our channel. It's called Punks for Progress School's Alt-Right Guy on Socialism. Please check it out. In it, I actually debated a friend of Will's that he was with out in front of Revolution Books in Berkeley. And in it, Will chimes in a couple times with just the most astoundingly incoherent garbledy-goop comments. One in particular I had to watch later like 6 or 7 times to figure out what the fuck he was talking about, because it was just this mess of random sort of right-wing talking points and slogans and just incoherence. And then so he's also the guy who many may be familiar with the Hasta Muerte Cafe in Oakland, which is the righteous motherfucking cafe that declared that they will no longer serve uniformed police officers. And Will didn't like that because he's a blue line freedom bootlicker to power. So he, made a call and came out with his live stream so he could get his super chat money and, exposed the dangerous Democrats and basically just harassed and attacked and got a handful of people to come out and do it with him, this cafe in Oakland. And within minutes, people from the Anti-Police Terror Project came out, and within minutes after that had mobilized a huge showing of people from Oakland to come out in defense of Hasta Muerte and really shut Will and his gaggle of idiots down quickly, and they were, sent running. But so I mean, that just gives you a little bit of who this guy is. He comes up from the Bay Area for this thing, for freedom, I guess, even though he's a huge blue line bootlicker, and live streams and, declares, Portland terrorist or whatever, and all the Democrats dangerous there as him and his friends terrorize that community. So, anyway, let's get into Joey's speech, which is from, like I said, Will's live stream. But I had to put it in. You have got to see this fucking Proud Boy rap an introduction for Joey. So, check it. They follow like sheep in a wolf clothes. They follow like sheep in a wolf clothes. USA! 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 Run down real quick. We got our man Joey Gibson running for Senate right now, man. Got a theme song, man. We about to rock this shit out for y'all real quick. Check it out. He walking alone up in the lion's den. Antifa kept trying him. Campbell's not liking him, cause he going to the top like Tyson did. Man, I go preach love, preach righteousness. Every man got a wife and kids. Libertarian, pro-life term limits for the low class, ain't fight for them, Middle finger to the FDA, Killing each other like every day, Joey used to put a head of state, Freedom movement, he done led the way, No love for the Democrats. Every day push a different tax, Big money at the end for that, He broke down, he afraid for that, Running for the Senate, He got mumbled, Joey.
I said sorry, was I getting you in my
You're fine, you're fine.
He got mumbled, Joey. Running for the Senate, We the people got one of us. All up in it now. Senate, We the people got one of us. All up in it now.
All right, round here for political muscle. Alright, now we're going to get this going. Here's one thing. I want to do something special today when I pray. Something very unique. Something I'm going to do something different today. And I talk about this all the time. I always talk about not bending a knee. That's the thing. That's the attitude we have to have in this country. I don't bend a knee for the government. I don't bend a knee for that crap over there. I don't bend a knee for anybody. There's one thing that I do bend a knee to, and that is God. That is God. So I'm going to humbly ask everybody here today to take a knee while I pray. because that's the only thing that we should ever bend a knee to. All right? Thank you.
Take a knee!
All right, God, I ask that you bring your spirit into the city, bring your spirit into Oregon, into the entire country. I ask that you help guide us today. You help the speakers to speak the truth, to speak what's on their heart. And I ask that you open up all the eyes here today, all the ears, so that we can hear your message. God, we are here for you. We are here to bring light into a city that is filled with darkness. We just need you to guide us one step at a time, and we will go in the right direction in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, so he follows up that horrible display of cultural appropriation that Proud Boy thinks is a rap with a wildly heretical public prayer. The Bible's very clear about not praying in public and making a spectacle of prayer, and however you feel about the Bible. And I don't think Joey knows anything about it at all, as made evident by that ridiculous prayer that he just vomited on Portland. But we're going to get into the speech now, and you're going to see how he really ties his twisted understanding of Scripture and God into some sort of weird cultist deification of, the Founding Fathers and America and patriotism. So, here you go.
Now, these men who signed the document, they knew that they would be considered traitors to King George, okay? And traitors to King George automatically had to forfeit all of their stuff, all of their property, everything that they worked for to the throne, and they pretty much put a bounty on each and every single one of their heads, okay? But these men had a spirit that we're missing today in this country, because they said that if you want my property, you're going to have to come and take it, and you're not going to get it without a fight. They said that if you want my life, you have to come and take it, but you're not going to get it without spilling your own damn blood. And that's what we got to have in this country. That's the spirit, the courage that we got to bring back. Now, one of the things that's really interesting to me, it's crazy to me. You look into the psychology of these men, like what is it that drove them? What is it that inspired them to, hey, we're talking about going up against the most powerful empire in the world, right? Just a couple of guys willing to go through a cultural war, start a revolution, and to go up against the most powerful empire in the world, the most powerful military, and going up against King George, a man who would murder you in 1 second without even batting his eye, because all he cared about was himself. And if you look, it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not, that's not what matters. What matters is that when you look into these men believed in God. They built their philosophy on bringing freedom into this country based off of praying and based off of the Scripture. Here's what they did. By reading Scripture, they started to believe that this revolutionary idea that the government's role is simply this, to protect your God-given rights from God. That was it. That was it. It was that simple.
Okay, Joey doesn't have the slightest fucking idea what he's talking about. The Founding Fathers were not in any way whatsoever inspired by some Puritan understanding of God or in some defense of Scripture or religion. They were, in fact, revolting against religious theocratic tyranny in King George. Okay, so, I mean, Joey understands on some level that King George was the enemy, but he doesn't understand at all why he was the enemy. I'm sure he just thinks it has all to do with taxes and whatnot. But, to say that the Founding Fathers were motivated by a love of God and Scripture is to wildly misunderstand the Founding Fathers. The vast majority of them were inspired by and obsessed with the Enlightenment and, Voltaire and Rousseau and protecting common people from the tyranny of religion and providing for them the right to practice whatever religion they want, but to make sure that religion did not play a role in the governance of all people. So Joey just doesn't even have a remote understanding of history.
As they started to build this philosophy, okay? Not only did they feel like they're justified to go up against King George, toe to toe, go take the challenge to him, they felt like it was a moral obligation to take on this evil tyrant, okay? And as they started to spread this amongst all the colonies, this new philosophy, like, they're trying to build a revolution of culture, a revolution of thought, a revolution of the heart, which is what we're trying to do. Benjamin Franklin came up with the quote, one of the most beautiful quotes ever. And we got to hear this more in our movement, guys. We got to hear this quote. He said, "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God."
Yeah.
Okay?
Word.
Come on, let's hear it. Let's hear it. Now, that seems like a simple quote because it is. It's very powerful. But if you think about it, it's more than that. Because what is a tyrant? Rebellion to a tyrant is so many things. Because a tyrant is evil, is corruption, is lies, is murder. It is selfishness. It is about the individual. That is a tyrant. So rebellion to any of those things, rebellion to the corruption in our government right now, that is obedience to God. Rebellion to any of the lies that you see from over there, from the media, from the politicians, that is obedience to God. Because those are the exact opposite of everything that God is.
Amen.
God is truth. God is love. God is freedom. Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so he's going on and babbling about Ben Franklin. I'd like to tell you a little something about Ben Franklin. Not only was he an Enlightenment guy, and most assuredly not a Christian, he was a member of the Hellfire Club, which practiced ritual orgies in Europe, and he was a high-level Mason. And listen, I'm not casting aspersions against any of those things. It's just he was not a fucking Christian, and or at least nothing even resembling anything that Joey would think is Christian either. So he's, in a sense, what Joey is doing is selling this concept of rebelling against tyranny to a bunch of people who drape themselves in the flags of the figurehead of that tyranny, these Trump supporters. And, totally ignoring the fact that the Trump administration and his sycophants in who control the majority in the House and Senate and now the Supreme Court are the actual arbiters of tyranny. And so as they cheer against, we're going to rebel against tyranny, they just have no concept of where the tyranny is coming from. But they need a scapegoat. So Joey gives them one. He says, all these people, which is basically the citizens of Portland. So they're the tyranny that the founding fathers shed their blood, and that now these people, these alt-right people, need to be willing to shed their blood to fight against. It is so twisted and confused.
For far too long, our country has been plagued, especially the Christian community. We have been plagued with the biggest lie in the world, and they have deceived us to think that obedience to God is inaction. They say, don't do this. That is obedience to God. Don't sin. That is obedience to God. No, they're saying that so we don't build warriors for God, warriors for Christ, who are willing to go out and to fight this evil that we have all over this country. They want the pastors to stay in their houses. That's what they want. They want the people in church to stay in the church and to keep their head down. It's one of the biggest problems that I have right now. Do you guys agree with that?
Word.
So, lastly on this point, I just want to point out, I mentioned that, that Trump sycophants are, have the majority in both houses of Congress and SCOTUS, etc. But, for Joey to say that, the church has to stay quiet and all this and kind of thing, and that the church is being suppressed, is just ridiculous. Evangelicals are in complete control of this fucking White House. There is regular video that comes out of all these insane theocratic fascists, televangelists and stuff praying over Trump in the Oval Office and shit. So it's just, again, another example of the complete delusional state that Joey and all his followers live in.
I am afraid of good Americans refusing to take a stand. That is what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of all the good Americans in this country refusing to come together, refusing to unite, to take on this great fight straight to the evil, wherever it may be. That is what I'm afraid of. Hear me? Amen? Listen, if you're a good man, let's say you're a good man, and you see evil clear as day, right? You see evil clear as day, and you say nothing, and you do nothing. You are just as much to blame as the evil itself. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Let me say that one more time. It's very important. If you see evil around you clear as day, you're a good man, you see evil clear as day, and you say nothing, and you do nothing, you are just as much to blame as the evil itself. You will be held just as responsible. Amen. Do you hear that? Amen.
Yeah. Okay, good Americans. What he is doing is riling up all of these people who consider themselves to be the good Americans to take action and to rebel and to revolt against whatever, right? And it's this sort of amorphous version of what evil is that any of his followers can just ascribe any definition to or any target to and say, oh, that's the thing that Joey's talking about is the evil which I need to be willing to shed my blood for or against. And so, like I said, it just allows us, it's just this kind of blank template that Joey gives his followers that they can ascribe any victim or any target to and justify them going out and committing violence against that person.
Why is it, do you think, that I took a stand, we took a stand against that garbage over there? Why do you think we took that stand? Because when I saw people getting beat up in the streets from my house, I said, I will not take responsibility for my inaction. I refuse to do that. I refuse to allow myself to be just as much to blame as that garbage and that hate over there. And that's the spirit that we got to bring back to this country.
Okay, so there you get to hear Joey talk about why he does what he does, which is because he saw some video of a fight between alt-right and Antifa and God and whatever. And so now he goes out regularly and hangs out with a bunch of misogynist bigots and people with, being arrested on warrants for violence and shit, and terrorizes innocent people and communities because he saw a video of violence and because he thinks he has some idea of what God is and what America is. Yeah. Okay.
As you know, constant criticism, standing in our shoes, constant, and that's okay. I'm not complaining. One of the things I say is we're too aggressive. Let me say this. This is clear as day, okay? It is better to act, to take action, and to be too aggressive than to take no action at all. Yeah!
Okay, I think that's one of the most telling elements of his entire speech, where he's talking about being too aggressive. He doesn't give anybody something specific to be aggressive over or any way with which to sort of temper their aggression and focus it positively. He just says, yeah, maybe instead of, knowing what the fuck you're talking about, screw it, now's the time, you got to be aggressive. It's a total inspiration and excuse for his followers to commit violence. And that is the way they take it. You saw it in the video earlier. Give me a break.
All right, so they listed 27 offenses to King George, these men, okay? And they tried to take it to him several times. He would ignore them, he would scoff at them, whatever, do all this stuff. Sometimes he would oppress them, but at that point, they had no choice. They had no choice. They decided to declare independence from this man, from this tyrant, like I said, because he didn't represent the people, okay? He didn't represent God. He did not respect God, so they didn't respect him. They rejected his authority because he rejected God's authority. Now listen, we have DC that is filled with politicians who rejected God long time ago. And I believe it is time that we the people begin to reject the authority of the politicians in Washington, D.C.
Okay, so more blathering on about, God and forefathers and but if you notice, what Joey's very careful to do is to kind of espouse this sort of bipartisan position. It's all politicians in Washington are corrupt, and so he can't be sort of pigeonholed or held to any specific sort of political position. He's obviously much more keen to criticize those on the liberal side of the aisle as to any of those on the right, because, of course, his followers are all a bunch of total right-wing Trump sycophants. And then you see, like what I said earlier about how he is rallying his supporters to be against tyranny and the powers that be, but they all love the people who are currently the powers that be. They are so disconnected from reality and from and so just wallowing in cognitive dissonance, and it's just made so evident by the things that they're saying here, or the things that he's saying and the way that they're responding to it. They are cheering for a rebellion against the people that they are routinely cramming their allegiances to down the throats of the left. It's astounding.
This is what it reminds me of, okay? Bear with me here. It reminds me of Jesus in the desert, 40 days. The enemy is constantly trying to tempt him. The enemy offers Jesus the whole world. He says, you can have it. You can be the ruler. All you have to do is bend the knee. Like we bent the knee earlier. That's all he had to do. Just bend the knee. But Jesus refused to do it because Jesus had a higher cause. Jesus came into this world to serve, not to be served. A king came to this world to serve all of you guys for a higher cause, much like George Washington. King George was a man that came to serve himself, and he died, and he brought nothing into this world. He didn't free generations after him. He didn't do a damn thing. Okay, so the question is, who do you want to be? Do you want to be a King George, or do you want to be George Washington? That's the question.
Washington!
That's right, George Washington.
Okay, that is super disturbing, because what Joey is doing is he is taking the biblical character of Jesus, associating it with George Washington, which in and of itself is incredibly offensive to the character of Jesus, because George Washington fucking owned people, okay? Jesus did not own people. His message was about freeing all people. So to connect Jesus Christ with George Washington is a complete disservice to history and to religious understanding, but there's a point to it, is that he is in a sense trying to deify George Washington. But then what he does is he associates, who do you want to be like? Well, George Washington. So now these people are like George Washington, who is like Jesus. So these people are religious, righteous fucking warriors now for God, who is like a dude who owned other people and shit. So there, again, that is, I think, probably the most dangerous element of Joey's message.
So, during the civil rights movements, we had Martin Luther King Jr. For those of you who are close to me, you know how much Martin Luther King means to me, okay? I hold him very close to my heart. This man was literally able to motivate young black men to go into diners to do one of the most selfless acts you can do. They would go in the diner, they would sit down, they would put their hands on the countertop, put their heads down and just wait. There's one video that I must have watched 100 times, okay? Let me describe it real quick. First they start throwing milkshakes on him, then they start throwing food on him, then the punches begin. They start to punch him in the head, in the side. He starts to bleed. They throw him to the ground and they start kicking him while he's down, and all he's doing is protecting himself. And they kick him over and over again as if he is a piece of trash. They don't even look at him as a human. And there's this moment where they stop kicking him, okay? I've seen this video a million times. They stop kicking him, and he slowly gets up, and it's kind of silent, and you don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to start yelling at them? Is he going to run out? Is he going to start fighting, okay? And he slowly gets up with the courage and the strength, right, of a higher cause, and he sits back down onto that chair, and he puts his hands back on that table to take more of a beating. And these men, there's no way they could have done that. There's no way they could have that courage if they're only thinking about themselves. But they had a higher cause. They had a higher cause.
Yeah. Okay, again, just when you thought he couldn't get any fucking grosser, he totally tries to appropriate the history and legacy of Martin Luther King, right? So he's talking about this sort of nonviolent, you know, act of righteous demonstration by a person at a, you know, soup counter who got beat and then got back up and sat up. And he's trying to associate his gaggle of morons with being that type of righteous and brutally oppressed minority when they've never experienced anything like that. And to associate anything that he's involved with to the legacy of Martin Luther King is so incredibly disturbing and offensive. I mean, I don't think I need to explain it any further than that. Other than that, that was just a blatant display of cultural appropriation and historical appropriation, and those people cheering for the righteous act of defiance by that person at that soup counter, and then thinking that they're somehow cheering themselves and associating it to what they're doing is fucking disgusting. And because of it, we need to take a break, don't we? We're going to get back to a little bit more of his speech in a minute, but let's check out some fucking Minutemen, dude. And, you know, for all my old punk rock friends out there, God, just imagine what D. Boone would have to say about all this nonsense. You know what I mean? Anyway, King of the Hill.
What is peace to the people who work the land and die in wars? And it was learning a game that was played by us all. Here on the top of the hill, from the rest was called a king. And I can't believe it all was good for humankind. Is it peace to point the gun? Is it war to fire the guns? We would run with all our might, push the king off to take the hill, and to learn who is king and who makes the better serve. I can't believe it all was good for humankind. And I have to read the light or dream the believing in it, we are a part. Oh, we call the earth. Okay, so we're going to get back into it, and what you're going to hear Joey addressing now is the fact that the alt-right is fucking falling apart, and his ridiculous non-existent answer of how to deal with it.
Other people. Now, as you guys know, I believe in this movement, we've lost our way. We've lost our way. The drama, we are gotten so lost, and we've gotten so much into what we want. We've gotten so much into our own drama, our own problems, and we started to look inward instead of focusing on the higher cause to truly change this revolution in this country. And I'm making a call. We have leaders from all over the country who came in here today. We have tons of people from California, and I'm saying that we let it go. We let go of the drama. We let go of the hate and the anger. That's nothing but a distraction. We've got to come back together. We've got to unite, and we got to do whatever it takes to continue to change the culture, especially in these dark cities. Do you guys hear me? Yeah.
Okay, in this next clip, you're going to see where Joey starts to sort of wrap it up, to sort of get to the point. And what it is you need to rebel against anything and everything.
All right, so here's what we got right now. We're already at a point right now. It's time to rebel. It's time to rebel, guys. It's time, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to rebel against anything and everything that is wrong with this country, and the time is now. Right now, we have over 430 departments, agencies, such and such, but that's only an estimate because no one really knows. Can you believe that? You're telling me you can't count how many agencies we have in this government? We have these agencies like the FDA, the Bureau of Land Management, and these other ones. They don't care about you guys. They want to trample all over the Constitution and build monopolies for the big businesses. The FDA wants to build a monopoly so they can poison our children and poison our veterans and get away with it.
Okay, so rebel against anything and everything. Don't bother, understanding history or how our government works or how the laws work or anything like that. You need to desperately, right now, now's the time, because it may be too late later, get out and rebel against anything and everything. Now, where he goes to from there is guns. And I find that very disturbing and very telling.
We have over 20,000 laws concerning the Second Amendment. Your right to own and carry a firearm. Does that sound like shall not be infringed? 20,000 laws? Are you kidding me? Maybe one, maybe two, at most. 20,000 laws we have. Hey, okay, I'll give $1,000 to anybody here who can tell me how many laws we have total in the federal government. Any takers? I'll give you $1,000. 240,000. 240,000? All right, here we go. No one knows. No one knows. There's so many laws in this country, they can't even count them. If we can't count our laws, how the hell are we even supposed to read them and know how to follow the laws and to be a law-abiding citizen? It's completely out of control. There's an estimate that each citizen commits at least 3 felonies per day. Can you believe that?
You break the law leaving your driveway.
It's unbelievable, okay? As you know, the IRS tax code, 40,000 pages long, unbelievable. The Bureau of Land Management has unconstitutionally taken 47% of the land on the West Coast. It's unconstitutional. The federal government can't own land unless it's for the military, okay? And they own 47% of our land on the West Coast. Unbelievable. In many cities, you literally have to ask permission from your royalty, the city council, or whatever it may be, if you can change a light bulb. Get a permit, change a light bulb, and pay them. Excuse my language, but that is complete bullshit. Unbelievable. If I want to change my light bulb on my own, I can do it. That is my house.
Light bulbs? News for you, I changed one yesterday. I didn't fill out a form, and because there's a lot of laws, so light bulbs, and because there's a whole bunch of laws, we need a violent revolution. That is not any way remotely close to justification for any type of rebellion or revolt. It's what it is, hey, I don't understand what the fuck is going on, so let's smash some shit. For God. But because God and stuff and the founding fathers and whatever.
Yeah. So here we go. Here's what I want to know.
Harry, I've been looking for you. I seen you when I walked in, but I didn't get to say hi.
We're already at that point. This government is completely out of control. Washington, D.C., Olympia, Salem, all of it's out of control. Do you guys agree with that? Do you believe that we are more than justified to start a revolution in this country today?
Right now.
We do not have to make the same sacrifices that our forefathers did. Not yet. It only takes a little bit of a sacrifice. But if you wait too long, if you continue to sit on your ass, you continue to make the justification, the excuses. Before you know it, it's going to be too late. And at that point, the guns are going to have to come out. And then we're going to have to make the same sacrifices that our forefathers made. Do you hear me? At that point, they're going to put you in jail for your free speech. Okay? So the time is now to find out who you are, what you can do. Okay? Find out the way that you can participate. I can't help you find the path. I'm just here to motivate you to begin your search. Okay? Guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming out here today.
Okay, so Joey, you know, he's careful to try and make a point to not specifically call for violence, but he doesn't really give his followers anything specifically to do except figure it out for themselves. So he tells them they're all a bunch of Jesus Washingtons, and that tyranny is everywhere, anywhere and everywhere, and they need to rebel against anything and everything, and they need to do it now before it's too late. And Second Amendment something something, and oh shit, let's pray, thank Jesus.
In the US, violent clashes broke out on Saturday in the city of Portland, Oregon, where a rally was being held to denounce President Trump's immigration policy. Fighting flared between the nationalist Patriot Prayer group and the anti-fascist organisation Antifa. People in the crowd lit firecrackers and smoke bombs, and police used flashbangs to try to clear the area.
Okay, guys. Thanks for suffering through it all. Thanks to and much respect to all the righteous comrades in Portland that fucking properly dealt with that shit this last weekend and numerous times in the past. And yeah, thanks to you for watching. Please subscribe, like and share a bunch of our shit on Facebook, and then, you know, follow us on the tweeters, and then, you know, send us like bananas and burritos to our Patreon account. Cool. But before we get out of here, let's let the Descendents kind of wrap it up.
Lost pages given to disease within me. every day goes by, we can't live like this anymore.